For most of your life, people have probably told you the same thing. You're not trying hard enough. You're wasting your potential. Everyone else is moving forward. Why aren't you? And maybe you've started to believe it. You feel stuck. Not lazy, not clueless, just unable to move. You want more from life, but every time you try to take a step, something invisible pulls you back. Here's the part most people don't understand. Feeling stuck is not a character flaw. It's a psychological state. And there's a very specific reason your mind feels frozen. To understand it, we have to look at how the brain is designed to move through change. Your nervous system evolved for clear threats and clear rewards. In the past, action was simple. Danger meant run, opportunity meant act. But modern life doesn't give you clarity. It gives you overchoice, uncertainty, and delayed rewards. And your brain doesn't freeze because it's weak. It freezes because it's overloaded. Psychologists call this motivational paralysis. When too many options, risks, and expectations pile up, your brain chooses the safest option of all. Do nothing. That's why you don't feel calm while stuck. You feel restless, ashamed, exhausted, because your mind is working overtime just to stay in neutral. Here's something most people miss. People who feel stuck are often highly self-aware and high in potential. You don't move impulsively because you see consequences. You don't jump blindly because you think deeply. Your mind runs simulations. What if I fail? What if I choose wrong? What if I waste years? So instead of moving forward imperfectly, you wait for certainty. But certainty never comes, and that waiting turns into stagnation. This creates a brutal loop. The longer you stay stuck, the more pressure you feel to make the perfect move. And the more pressure you feel, the harder it becomes to move at all. Your nervous system isn't lazy. It's in threat mode. Because for your brain, choosing the wrong path feels worse than choosing no path. But there's another layer to this. Many people who feel stuck grew up being valued for being smart, capable, or full of potential. You were rewarded for getting things right, not for experimenting, not for failing. So now, as an adult, your identity is tied to competence, and action without guaranteed success feels like identity death. So you stall, not because you don't care, but because you care too much. Psychologists describe this as performance-based self-worth. When your value is attached to outcomes, movement becomes dangerous. Now let's talk about the environment. A stuck person is rarely stuck everywhere. They're usually stuck in one mismatched system. A job that drains instead of challenges. A routine that numbs instead of builds momentum. A social circle that reinforces who you were, not who you're becoming. Just like a plant placed in the wrong soil, you don't grow, not because you're broken, but because the conditions are wrong. And here's the most important shift. You don't escape feeling stuck by finding motivation. You escape it by restoring a sense of agency. Agency means this: I can affect my future with my actions. When agency is low, motivation dies. So we stop asking, what's my purpose, and start asking a better question. What is the smallest controllable move I can make today? Not the perfect plan, not the life overhaul, just one move that proves to your nervous system that motion is possible. Psychologists call this behavioral activation. Action comes before clarity, not after, and the action must be small enough that your brain doesn't perceive it as a threat. 5 minutes of progress, one email, one application, one honest conversation. Movement rebuilds confidence, not the other way around. Now let's address the emotional weight. People who feel stuck often carry invisible grief. Grief for the version of themselves they thought they'd be by now. Grief for lost time. Grief for choices not taken. That grief turns inward and becomes shame. But shame doesn't motivate change. It paralyzes it. So instead of asking, what's wrong with me, ask this: What has my nervous system been protecting me from? Because being stuck is often a form of self-protection, protection from failure, from disappointment, from confirming your worst fears about yourself. Once you see that, the war inside you softens, and that's when movement becomes possible again. You don't need a dramatic breakthrough. You need friction in the right direction. Structure over inspiration. Systems over willpower. Momentum over meaning. Meaning comes later. The modern world will tell you to just push through, but pushing harder on a frozen system only creates burnout. Instead, you design your life to make forward motion safer, lower the stakes, shorten the timeline, shrink the goal, and build proof, slowly, that you can move again. If you feel stuck, you're not behind. You're not failing. You're paused in a system that no longer fits you. And once you start redesigning the conditions instead of blaming yourself, the freeze begins to thaw. Start with one small action today. Not because it will change everything, but because it reminds your brain that change is possible. If this felt like it was describing you a little too accurately, subscribe to When Minds Wander. We're not here to push harder. We're here to understand deeper. I'll see you in the next one.